Welcome to Nice One Cyril. I'm impressionist Simon Lipson. I do Ronnie Corbett still. How long's he been dead, Julie?
I'd give it 30
Ronnie
years.
Ronnie Corbett. So it doesn't matter. No one knows if it's good or it's bad. Ha! Very good. So that's Ronnie Corbett. Got that out the way. Julie is here. She's the Spurs queen, as we know. Firm but fair, Kevin Acott. And it's a debut for Scottish Spurs nut Barry Graham. So, was the draw in Bodo gritty or grim? Did we flatter to deceive against Leeds? Why are some fans turning on Thomas Frank when we're third, not 13th? And why does Vicario's every save feel like compensation for some earlier error? Speaking of dodgy keepers, Kevin will delve into the hodgepodge of keepers we've endured since Pat Jennings. Julie will remember Scottish Spurs heroes. I'm sure Barry will join in there. And we'll discuss earning the right to play good football by being a bit shit first. All that plus rants about cues in Gales, Burger van, insult throwers, Kev, that's for you, 8 p.m. kickoffs, and the irritating Spurs official X account. It's football therapy served with sarcasm and a side of irreverence. It's Nice One Cyril. Nice One Cyril. Okay, so here we are. Let's first of all say hi to Barry Graham. Barry, welcome to the show. It's your debut, all the way from Scotland. You're in Glasgow.
That's right, yeah. Season ticket holder, but as you can imagine with the distance side, it's up on Ticket Exchange fairly regularly. But I've been a season ticket holder since, first season at Wembley. Set up Glasgow Spurs in 2012.
It's nice to have a lunatic on, and there you are in Scotland. Why Spurs? Why Spurs?
In short, I was a shit glory hunter in the early 80s, really. That's about the size of it. There's a lot. I mean, I came from not a Rangers or Celtic pushing background, and both were fairly crap early 80s. If you remember, it was the era of the new firm Fergie at Aberdeen, and Dundee United were good. So there's a lot of guys my age in Glasgow, if they weren't kind of tribally indoctrinated either of an English team or, one of these sort of now lesser light Scottish teams. So early 80s, the 2 FA Cup triumphs, as you know, were probably second only to Liverpool at that stage. I plumped for Spurs. Boy next door had a Glenn Hoddle poster on his wall. He was a couple of years older than me, and he basically scarred me for life.
So you've had 45 years of regret.
Exactly. And I bumped into the guy about 20 years ago, and he'd no recollection of having any flirtation with Spurs at all. And I did point out to him that he'd kind of impacted my life in a largely negative way. But you know what it's like. Once you pick them, you're stuck with them, and that's... You are
indeed. You are stuck. Well, let's have a little chat about Bodo. Now, was it another gritty draw, Kev, or were we a bit lucky? What are your thoughts on that performance?
I think it was definitely grim rather than gritty, and I think we were lucky. We were outplayed. I think he made some mistakes, Frank, again, for which obviously he does need to be sacked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm turning into, what's his name, from Harlan?
Gary from Chelmsford.
Gary from Chelmsford, yeah. No, I think he didn't quite get it right, but actually overall it doesn't matter. We got a draw, and if you said to me beforehand, 2 all okay, then I'd have been all right. But so it was disappointing. It was a bit miserable to watch, but it's sort of okay and doesn't matter too much in the long run, I suspect.
Interesting, isn't it, Julie? We had, years of people saying, look, I don't care how shit we are, I just want to win something. So last season, we were shit and won the Europa League. Here we are, we're not pulling up trees. We don't look that great, but we are looking difficult to beat. We don't look like we're ever going to just give it up and throw in the towel. Is this an advance, or are we just treading water and it's all going to come apart, Ange style?
I think it's amazing, difficult to beat. When said no one ever about Spurs, but that's what's happening. Yeah, it was a terrible, terrible first half. It really was. But I did think it was going to be difficult. I mean, I may even have messaged you all to say, told you so.
You did.
Yep. A brief herogram for Mickey van der Ven, who I think is a monster and probably our future captain, if no one really rich buys him. Yeah, I mean, we got there, didn't we? Got a 2-2. Desmond, nothing wrong with Desmond. I thought it was all right. Didn't lose.
Yeah, we didn't lose, and it's another point. We've lost 1 in 9, Barry. It's been quite unlike Spurs. I mean, we kind of got used to losing under Ange. We look a little bit more formidable, organised. Is this just the Frank effect?
Yes, it's one of these difficult ones. When you're getting results but not performances, you do wonder which one's going to revert to the mean, or the performance is going to up to the results, or the results come down to performances. I think you've seen that a wee bit with Liverpool, who had weeks of last-minute winners and what have you. And my inclination on them was, well, once you start playing, they're going to be formidable. But actually, it's kind of gone the other way for 3 or 4 games. I think with us, yeah, the Wolves and the Bodo game were both pretty dire, but we got something out of them. And yet, I know we'll come on to it, the game on Saturday was a bit better, which suggests, maybe we are developing this habit for just winning or getting results rather, and not being shit all the time. But when we are shit, there's a bit of resolve and resilience there. It was kind of the game I feared the Bodo second leg was going to be in May.
Mm.
They were good and we were pretty poor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I actually watched it the following night back, having not seen it the first night. But I did think the first half in particular was really, really poor. But
yeah.
It was kind of expected with the lineup, Romero out and the front three. Yeah, he can't keep playing his first 11 every game, but I think it showed, that front three in particular looked fairly lightweight.
You made a very interesting point that I was going to talk about later, but I may as well bring it in now about earning the right to play. Kev, I mean, it's an old cliche, but in a way, we went in all guns blazing with Ange when he arrived, and winning matches and all very helter-skelter, seat of the pants stuff. We then quickly got found out, and it all became a bit of we did okay in the first season, but it all became a bit, God knows where this is going. Seems to me that, or at least this is my take, that we're laying some foundations here. So we're not trying to be spectacular. We're trying to be effective. We're trying to compete with everybody we play against. And, we don't always agree with Frank's changes and selections, but it's working. So, I mean, it's a sort of fanciful take, because you'd like to think, we're suddenly going to, from this steady base, we're suddenly going to start playing expansive, brilliant football. But there's something in that, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, I think the obvious difference is probably our 3 best players now, which is Kudus, Simmons and Palhinha, who are all new this year. Every now and again I sort of think, what would Ange have done with them? But I suspect he wouldn't have done with them what Frank's done so far. We can't play them every game. I do get that. Our squad is still thin, very thin, and I think we need at least 2 or 3, ideally 2 or 3 decent purchases in January. But I think it feels solid. Things feel more solid anyway than they have done in a long time, and it's going to take much longer than I think we hoped. But I feel cautiously optimistic.
nice to feel there's some methodology going on here rather than gung-hoing it all over, and hoping for the best. That actually Frank thinks about how we're going to set up, how we're going to organise ourselves, what the opposition's about, and he tries to play to that rather than, as I say, so just hoping for the best. Let's move on to Leeds. It was a better performance, Julie, wasn't it? And your mate Tel, I don't know why he's your mate, but anyway, I'm going to say that. He finally sort of came good. I mean, he wasn't just the goal. He played okay.
I've thought for a long time, actually, there is a player there. He seems a really good type of person. He gives the impression that he really likes being Spurs. He really wants to do well. He's not a slacker. Probably lacked a bit of confidence, overthinking, hence, a lot of wild shots. Very glad that got that goal. I don't know if you feel the same as me, probably not, but I always sort of seem to latch on to one player from, time to time who, for some reason, I really like and hope they do well. I mean, confession time. Do you remember Lewis Holtby? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
No, I do.
I thought Lewis Holtby was wonderful. I actually named my laptop after him.
As you do.
Yeah, well, because I'm, 14 inside. I was absolutely gutted when he left. And I had a little thing about Kevin Wimmer as well. That's just the way things go.
And no one else, I would suggest.
Oh, apart from Son. I mean, he was Son's mate when Son was first over here.
So, and Julie, let's just also pick up your comments about Van der Ven. He had a sterling game against Bodo, and to me, actually, it feels a bit like he's kind of stopped being the junior partner with Romero, and that suddenly he is that player in his own right. He stands up, he's strong, he's big, he does his own thing, he's tidy, fast as fuck. It seems to me like a sort of I don't know, again, no way of knowing if it's a Frank thing, but somehow he seems imbued with an additional kind of air of authority.
I'm absolutely in agreement with you about that. Like I say, I think when Romero moves to Atletico, as he no doubt will at some point, Mickey will be our captain, or he should be. He is. I mean, when he first arrived, we were all incredibly excited by him, weren't we? Anyway, but mainly because he ran very fast and obviously had palpable talent. Yeah, I've gone into my observer mode now of I'm using rather long words which nobody has ever heard of.
I like a long word.
Yeah. Sesquipedalian, I discovered the other day. I've forgotten that one. That's really good. It means very, very wordy. Wow. Anyway.
Appropriately enough.
Yes. Back Mickey. I just think he's the goods. And Ange's first season went rapidly downhill when Mickey got injured. Because he was out a lot last season, I don't think that helped the poor results in the PL. He, as you say, he's authoritative. I mean, what is he? He's 24, so he's not quite at his prime yet, as long as his hamstrings hold out. And I think probably the training has got a bit less brutal now that Frank is here, although I'm not sure about that. I think he's great. Definitely not a dickhead. Nice haircut as well.
Julie does like a nice haircut. Let's be honest. It's quite key. Let's move on to Vicario. Barry, Kevin, I, in fact, all of us on the Nice One Cyril WhatsApp were casting aspersions. It does seem as though, he will come up with these phenomenal saves. He made a good one at the end. There was another one with his feet from Calvert-Lewin, who extraordinarily was on target, but he did look a bit flappy. There were moments where you thought, should he have caught that? Or there was one punch that went literally nowhere. We kind of have a bit of doubt about him on the pod here. Are you feeling like that perhaps he isn't the number one you need if you've really got ambitions to do something?
Yeah, I think he's a good, but clearly not a great goalkeeper. Yeah, the free kick with the Rodin header against the post, that was awful. And he was lucky we didn't score, or that would have been replayed, countless times. And yeah, I saw a few folk having a pop at him for the goal. I thought he was a bit unlucky with that, because it had taken a deflection. It was a decent shot, and it only spilled out because it hit his arm a second time. So I'd give him a pass on that. But yeah, the thing that drives me nuts with him, apart from the flapping, is this needlessly punching. There was that, you mentioned the one towards the end. When you're late in the game, you're under the cosh, you want your keeper to come up, claim it with both hands and fall on a heap on the floor, clutching the thing. He does punch too often for me, but he is a great shot stopper. I think the thing that pisses a lot of folk off with him, me included, and we saw it again on Saturday, was you've made a couple of mistakes yourself, but as soon as there's a shot over the bar or something like that, he's instantly out berating everyone else, the defender. And I think folk are just, it probably dates back maybe to that first game Leicester last season when he had a right pop at Bergvall on his debut.
Yeah.
And there's just this sense that he's a little bit quick to castigate others, and that annoys you then when he makes mistakes himself. But yeah, I mean, he's clearly not the, kind of Allison type league. He's not in that. I think he's okay and kind of, top 7 level keeper, but not, challenging for the title keeper.
He's not elite, is he? No.
Yeah.
No. I mean, you make a very, very interesting, funny point about, Vicario with all of his, gesticulations and kind of over-celebrating, over-berating. It's as though it's a bit, look at me, I am passionate, look at me, fellas. He's a badge kisser type, isn't he, Kev? We talked about people like this last week. Porro does it. I'm getting really thoroughly fucking pissed off with players who run to the crowd. You win a corner and they run to the crowd and their hands are going, come on, give us a bigger cheer. Shut up. You make us cheer. That's what you're there for. You don't have to ask us for a cheer. Is this kind of it's all become a bit the norm now, hasn't it? This kind of irritating behaviour. And Vic's right at the forefront.
I don't know if it's always been this way, but there are so many of these little things, idiosyncrasies that players have that seem to spread across the teams very quickly. All the shoving and wrestling in the box at corners, everyone having a long throw expert now. Most of whom aren't really long throw experts, but they can throw it a bit further than the teammates, I think. And this whole, the whole trying to get the crowd going, I find it insulting, actually, if any player does that. I think you're absolutely right. It's up to them to get us going. Yeah, I don't. Sometimes I think I don't like footballers very much, but that's I think it may be too late to do anything about that, really.
I mean, of course, they all do the holes in the socks now along the backs of the socks. And what's the point of that? Seriously, all these years, Julie, come on, Dave Mackay putting holes in his socks. Could you imagine the stupidity of that? Dave would have been all over any teammate deliberately putting holes in their socks.
Definitely. They're all trying, I think it's because, they're trying to frame themselves as characters because they've got to stand out on social media, whatever. They've got to market themselves. I had a pop last week, didn't I, about Harry Kane's goal celebration, mainly because it was so dull. I'm not a great one for goal celebrations, probably because I'm an old bag and I sort of came through 70s and 80s football.
You like a Jimmy Greaves celebration, you just turn around and going back to the centre spot now. I've just scored the best goal you've ever seen.
Snog with his mates, Jimmy. Quick snog with his
handshake,
mates.
Wasn't it? It was a handshake.
Yeah.
That's
even worse. But actually, maybe now is the time for one player to reintroduce the handshake, because that really would get people talking. Much more interesting than the long throw.
And then the other one, of course, the choreographed goal celebrations, where they all get on the floor and do some stupid gesture, rowing or just grow up. I know they're young boys, but grow up.
I blame Klinsmann and the dive celebration for that. Do you remember Klinsmann's goal when all the teammates dived after him? That's when the rot started. It was absolutely brilliant at the time, but they've never heard of always leave them laughing. It's
Let's moving on to form, because Barry, this is an interesting. I mentioned before that we've lost one game this season. Here's a little interesting stat. Since the last international break, and of course we broke that voodoo, Spurs have had 7 games in 22 days, 4 away from home, including a trip to the Arctic Circle. We're third. Why people? I mean, we talked about stylistically, we don't really look exciting at the moment. Don't we want to be third and looking like a decent side, like a side that other teams don't want to play, rather than being that easy touch that we were last season? Why are people having a go at Frank? I don't get it.
I think it's maybe another case of social media not being representative of your Spurs fans as a whole, and you get a lot of blowhards who will, just are never satisfied. Probably the same people last season who were saying, Ange is naive, he's got to be, manage games better. I think we touched on it earlier. He's got to start rebuilding from the back and sort out the defence, and he's doing that. There's no way that would have happened last season. God, we couldn't go 2 games without a defeat last season, let alone 7 in 3 weeks or whatever it is. So, yeah, maybe part of it's that the home form's it's mainly been built in away performances so far. I think after such a dismal season last season, I think people want to start seeing some wins at home. That's a factor. I would suspect I'm in the majority who's absolutely delighted with the way things are going, given how bad we were last season.
Yeah, it's kind of restored a bit of respect about Spurs. We're kind of a bit of I hate the idea of us being a laughing stock and embarrassment, because I don't buy into that shit normally, but I don't care what other people think. Just from our perspective, to watch our team being so clownish at times and consistently clownish, and now we're not having to deal with that at the moment. Let's have just focusing in on that Leeds performance a little bit more. Personally, I thought Kudus was brilliant. Again, that combination of strength and trickery. Normally tricky wingers aren't very strong, or strong wingers aren't very tricky. He seems to me to be both, with knobs on. Very deserved first goal, and I thought Simmons was great as well. I mean, he's not kind of pulling up trees yet, but I think he's settled in really well, and he looks, every time he gets on the ball, he's looking to do damage to the opposition. And there were 2 little flick passes that, to me, they were Hoddle-like, where he sort of, on the move, he was able to scoop the ball over the defence for the player running on. These are 2 very, very high-quality players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kudus, I think, is by far our best player at the moment. He's extraordinary. I didn't think, because I know there was a sort of ambivalence that West Ham fans had about him. He had apparently a not very good season last season, and a very good one the season before. I think they weren't convinced about him. And so I sort of approached him a little bit with that lack of conviction that he was going to be great. But he's been great. He's just incredible. There was one bit, just about 4 or 5 Leeds players tried to get the ball off him and couldn't. They couldn't. To the point where you're watching it and you just feel sorry for them. You just think, give up. You are never going to get the ball off this man. It was just incredible. And that's strength, it's skill. It's very rare, that ability to hold on to the ball and then do something good with it as well. I think there's a part of me wonders what he'd be like more centrally. It just feels like sometimes there's a little bit of a waste of that energy and that talent on the wing. I don't know. That's just once a time. That may be because we still haven't quite got it together centrally and creatively, that you sort of want him to do everything. But no, yeah. It's great. Simmons, I agree, he's showing flashes of what I think is going to show us over the next few years, hopefully.
Mm.
He's starting to get better and better.
Yeah, there's two really good buys. Julie, let's move on. This is nostalgia time. I did just mention Dave Mackay. I think you wanted to have a little chat about the fact that we got no Scottish players, and with Barry, you'll be conscious of this. Whereas we used to have, Gillian and Mackay and others.
Right.
What's happened?
Well, I think part of the problem is that Scottish football ain't great these days. Maybe the rest of the world has caught up and overtaken them. We had so many fantastically good Scots. Bill Brown in goal, John White in midfield, Dave Mackay in midfield. Moving on, Alan Gilveen. And then, of course, the great Steve Archibald, one of my favourite players ever.
Super
I mean,
player.
why haven't we got a Scot? We had so many great Scottish players at one stage, and they never get considered now. I mean, it's just a shame.
I mean, you used to have lots of them generally around the English, top league, and the Bremners and people like that. They're just not around really these days. And Barry, Julie mentioned there that perhaps the standard has dropped away. Is it a general decline in standards? Because Rangers look horrendous at the moment.
Yeah, I think they both are, to be fair. Celtic are very poor this season as well.
Mm.
I mean, there's even folk talking up Hearts as potential title challengers. I don't think for a minute that'll happen, but the way Rangers are going, they could be second. Yeah, I mean, this has been a problem. And I mean, I'm not a big international football fan at all. I'm not a big kind of Tartan Army at all, but Scotland haven't been great for a number of years. They sort of found a way to muddle through recently and get results. When you look at the 70s and 80s, couple of World Cups, Scotland were the only home nation to qualify, and the great Liverpool European Cup winning teams having 3 or 4 Scots in them. Those days have long gone. I mean, Spurs-wise, I mean, I think I'm right in saying the last 2 were Hutton, who was a waste of money, a big money buy from Rangers, did nothing. And before that, Colin Calderwood, I think, who was an honest trier, but in a pretty ordinary Spurs team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from our perspective, and Glasgow Spurs, I think it's kind of, you always cling on to something if there's a Scottish link. So there was a bit of that. A lot of our members, I mean, I'm not as involved as I was, but a lot of the members are kind of, Spurs is their English team and they'll be Celtic or Rangers. And so something like Ange coming generates a great deal of interest. But to be honest, bar a few Scottish players now, there's not many that I would think I'd love to have them at Spurs. And yeah, so it's a strange one. Gilly was in his latter years our honorary president at Glasgow Spurs.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was a kind of friend of a friend, got him on board. I don't know if you've read the book by actually a friend of mine, James Morgan, In Search of Alan Gilzean. That was the book that brought him kind of back to public attention. Anyway, shortly after that, he did a Spurs event, and as I say, a friend of a friend got in touch with him. And for the last 4 or 5 years of his life, it was great for me because he would get in touch. I wouldn't say often, but 2 or 3 times a year, he'd come up and see us, and he'd phone, chew the fat over Spurs.
Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't have a Glasgow link as such. He was sort of Perthshire, Dundee area. But yeah, it's nice having that. And I think another Spurs sports club, Loch Lomond Spurs, have got Alfie Conn as their kind of honorary president, who, was the classic definition of a cult player.
Yeah.
But it's nice having a Scottish link, but it's not essential. I'd rather we had good players than just a token Scot.
Yeah, you mentioned Alfie Conn. I mean, I saw a picture of him as he is now recently. You just would not know that was Alfie Conn. Well, he'd lost all his hair, but he's put a bit of weight on. It's just impossible to identify him. Kev, Julie mentioned Bill Brown, one of our goalkeepers of the past. We've now got our good friend Vicario. In between, since let's say is from the great legendary Pat Jennings through to Vicario, we've had some right old dross, haven't we? What's your take on that?
We really have. And I was thinking about this because, what you were saying earlier about this sort of occasional phenomenal save and then lots of flappiness, and you just worry. You're always worried, and you suspect the defence are worried with Vicario behind them. And I was just thinking, that's actually a typical Spurs goalkeeper, really. He doesn't stand out particularly. I think we've had a lot of keepers like that who can pull out such great saves. Gomez is the most extreme example of that, I think.
Yes,
because he did some incredible saves and some incredible misses or incredible errors. We all loved him, didn't we? I mean, I think I never quite understood. I loved him as well. I never quite understood why we loved him, because he was so unreliable. Another goalkeeper I think everyone loved is Paul Robinson. Paul Robinson was capable of those kind of poor errors as well.
But Julie, what about remember back in the day we had Barry Daines in the reserves, right? Remember Barry Daines? And everyone said, isn't it amazing? We've got this world-class keeper in reserve. Just wait till he comes in and shows what he's capable of. And he was shit.
Well,
in the nicest possible way.
I think he was quite unlucky because he was understudy to Pat Jennings throughout, his younger years. So he'd never. He was playing in the reserves for a lot of the time. I don't think that helped. Lloris in his last 2 seasons, peak Lloris, prime Lloris, was a fantastic keeper, real quality, World Cup winner, absolute giant. But you got that same sort of feeling of being very unsafe in late Lloris, which you get with Vicario. Leading on from that, what's happened to Kinski? I mean, he doesn't get much of a look in, does he, these days?
And Barry, he looks a very competent keeper to me. We talked about him last week, didn't we, Kev, about saying how composed he looks and how kind of he doesn't look jittery like Vicario on the ball. The question is, Barry, if you can't make him experienced enough if you don't give him any games? So is it time we sort of started easing him in, or is the fact that Vicario is now part of this bloody senior group of players that Frank has been talking about since he joined?
What's that?
Does that make him?
Simon, I just that's another thing that annoys me. Why? It's an organic sort of senior group developing in any
leadership group, please. Our leaders. Ange brought it in. Actually, no, I do Ange wrong there, because Dyer, Kane, and can't remember who else it was, were always called the leaders in Pochettino era as well. So, but it's just become more obvious, hasn't it? It's really annoying.
Kev says you don't have to announce it and make a big song and dance over it. Just let them lead. Just do your thing, lads. At the appropriate time, and keep it to yourselves. I mean, it's obvious. We can see it. You don't have to appoint them.
Yeah, and I felt with having, bless him, Ben Davies in there is just like a kind of nod to, it's almost like a testimonial. You're in the leadership team.
Yeah.
He's not going to play unless we're down to the bare bones, but he's just a kind of good egg, so we'll kind of have him there. But getting back to what you're saying about Kinski, I mean, it looks to me that he's only going to play in the Carabao Cup. He's going to have Vicario in Champions League and Premier League unless and until he gets injured. I mean, I thought Kinski did start very well, but I remember he was a bit scare-him that Arsenal game. But I mean, you could argue he's a young kid, and Vicario wasn't his prime in doing that. I don't know. It's difficult. He's very young for a keeper still, Kinski. You wonder how long. I mean, Vicario's still relatively young for a keeper. You do wonder how long Kinski will be happy there, just playing, unless there's injuries, a couple of League Cup games here and there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is he the new Barry Danes? Is he going to be, forever the understudy?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think the other thing, Kev, we talked about this briefly last week in relation to Vicario and Kinski. I think we're playing out less this season. We're clearly we're going long more often, and you need, well, actually, even if you're playing out, you need a keeper whose touch is sure, and B, whose delivery is clean. You often see the ball bobbling off Vicario's feet and going nowhere. Whereas Kinski looks to me like he picks a man out and generally gets pretty close.
Yeah, I think that's true. We are doing it. We are doing it a lot less. This is another one of those little trends, though, isn't it? I think most teams seem to be doing it a lot less this year, because most teams have realised they're not Man City from 3 or 4 years ago and can't manage it. I mean, it cost us so much, I think, over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Including City, they've started going long a bit as well.
Yeah.
And everyone's doing the long throw-ins. I mean, we were taking the piss out of Arsenal last season, being like Stoke, but everyone's kind of doing it now. It does seem to have reverted a bit long ball.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, this is why I guess, Julie, Solanke he's becoming a more brilliant player in his absence, but he's that guy, isn't he? That, you want to find him with your long throw or your long kick out, because he can, a la Kudus, he can look after it.
There's that big guy up front who's sort of, throwing his arse around, shouldering people out of the way, scoring a goal occasionally. He's not the most outstandingly talented striker ever, but is a very good striker. I mean, part of the reason we were so bad against Bodo was that he wasn't there. I mean, remember what he did at the Balls of Steel penalty and all that. He is a big miss. Before we leave the subject of goalkeepers, though, does anybody else remember Bobby Mims?
Yeah.
Known as Booby Mims. I mean, if you want to think of possibly the most inept goalkeeper that Spurs have ever had, I think he's a candidate. I really do.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't.
He was as colourless as South Mim service station. That's why I used to think he's got that nothingness about him that's reflected in a service station. Now, moving on, ranting time, isn't it? Barry, here you are, lunatic, coming down to see Spurs at the home ground, but 8 p.m. kickoffs. What's that about? On a Saturday?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
I mean, this is like complaining about the weather, really. It's nobody, Sky control everything. But yeah, Saturday p.m. I know with the Wolves one, and we've got Fulham one coming up. And as someone, traveling a distance, that's just impossible. I mean, I'm limited now the number of games I can get up and down in a day too, in terms of kickoffs. And really, your only slot is either the early game, the lunchtime game on a Saturday, leaving at the crack of dawn, or a 3 p.m. Saturday. Beyond that, can't get up. And on a Sunday, getting down, West Coast Main Line's not on. I know this is first world problems here, but getting up and down, can't even get the last train back for a 4:30 when Sky moved from 4, the late game, to 4:30 on a Sunday. That kibosh that. But yeah, I mean, you don't even think about it. Very occasionally I'll stay down, but only if it's a big game, because it makes it prohibitively expensive.
Yeah.
But yes, and even just from a selfish point of view, then you're thinking, am I going to shift my ticket for the Fulham on Ticket Exchange at 8 o'clock this Saturday night?
Yeah. I mean, I live about 15 minutes from the ground on my bike, so it's round the corner for me, and I get really irritated at 8 o'clock Saturday night kickoffs. Kev, I mean, and you live around the corner from me. It's kind of, I don't know, it's like imposing on your Saturday night. You want to go out and do something on Saturday night, and you can't. You're not going to be home till 10:30 or something. It's not about the fans anymore, is it? Really?
No, I mean, it's symptomatic, isn't it, of the way football's gone over the last 20, 30 years. I don't think we can entirely blame Levy, but I don't think we should give up on that one altogether. So I think I'm going to go with I blame Levy for that.
I'm starting to go with I blame Venkatesham, but just because we've got to have a focal point for our loathing. Anyway, it's infuriating. Let's move on. Kev, you were telling me a lovely story about the burger van that used to pass on your way into the ground.
Yeah, I worry about the man. So this was at the old White Hart Lane, and he was a really friendly guy. He did some very cheap, possibly slightly dodgy burgers and chips. And my kids insisted when they were young that we go and queue up for burger and chips, because he would always say, "What do you want, Baldy? Hurry up, Baldy!" And he would just insult me, and I grew to love him really for his insulting my baldness. My kids loved him, and then when the new ground came along, off he went. I assume, I'm hoping, they gave him enough for him to retire to Barbados and insult bald people in Barbados. I don't know what happened to him, and
it's a big miss, isn't he? It's a big miss.
I never knew his name. I don't know what his name was.
What a shame. I wish I'd gone past him in my prime, because he'd have just said, "Hello, fatty. What do you want?" And you can't really argue with someone speaking the truth.
No.
Julie, you've got a bit of a gripe, haven't you, with the Spurs official account on Twitter?
Yeah, well, again, it's because I'm such an old bag now. But and the people who run account are about 12 years old, so obviously I'm not their market. But do you remember Shoot magazine, or maybe you're a little bit young for Shoot magazine?
No,
but it's a bit like an endless supply of Shoot magazine photos moving. You see notifications from Spurs official, made a new signing, and then it's just this sort of footage of arriving at the ground, and you get these, you get the team sort of going through a door and walking along a corridor, and some looking purposeful, they've got their game face on, some sort of wave at the camera. What's it about? Is it just to humanise the players? I don't want to see it, it's just so boring. Like I say, I'm an old bag.
No, listen, I'm an old geezer, and I'm with you on that. I mean, sometimes you'll get an interviewer, right, and then they'll say, "Here comes Mickey van der Ven. Hey, Mickey, what's your favourite sweet? Do you like opal fruits?" And Mickey van der Ven goes, "Oh, I don't know, because I don't know, chewing gum." And you think, does anyone seriously give a fuck about any of this stuff? It's so banal. It's so trite.
To be fair, is that not what you were talking about, Shoot, Julie? I remember when you used to get that. The questions there were, what's your favourite food? Lasagna. What's your favourite holiday resort? Mallorca. Dream
what
date,
are your dislikes?
Raquel Welch or something. It was totally one-dimensional stuff. Now, maybe this is just the kind of modern era version of that, banal.
It was always Chawaddy Waddy, I think.
I've got a little rant, and it's nothing to do with football, and it's regarding Kev's favourite bakery, Gales. I don't want to set Kev off on one here, because he hates Gales. He hates Gales with the kind of passion with which most Spurs fans hate Arsenal. It's that, it runs that deep. Here's my issue with Gales, right? Sometimes I go into, because I like Gales, I go into Gales, and in front of you, right, you've got all of the stuff that's on offer. You've got the cinnamon swirls and the scones and the sandwichy things and all that. They're sitting there for you to pick what you want from those, that selection. And you can be in this queue for 10 minutes, and the person in front of you is looking at this stuff, and then they'll finally get to the till. And they go, "Oh, yes, sir, what would you like?" And they go, "Oh, I don't know, I might have, I don't know." But you've had 10 minutes to fucking look at it, and you still don't know what you want. And I have to stand there for another 10 minutes while this person makes their selection. Look, this is poor queuing etiquette, Kev, isn't it? It's poor queuing etiquette.
Well, you deserve it, Simon. I'm sorry. Sorry. If you expect civilised behaviour in Gales, or from Gales customers or Gales staff, then I'm afraid that's your problem. It's a terrible, terrible, evil place. And
I'm going to fight you over this.
Arsenal of very, very expensive bakery shops.
I will say that their cheese straws are so worth queuing for. They are. I mean, I've sampled cheese straws all over southwest London. You know, they are the Erling Haaland of cheese straws.
Be grateful you're not in Glasgow. We have to make do with Greg's, and that's as far as it goes. So,
Well, look, I go into Gales every day. I have a cup of tea and a fruit scone. I pick the raisins out of the scone and leave the scone. And they look at me like I'm mad, and I don't care. That's the kind of guy I am. Now, moving on. We've got the misery of the international break. What have you got lined up? I mean, we've got nothing to moan about. We can't blame Levy for anything. And now we've got to watch Jordan Henderson pulling on the shirt and driving us all sick with fury.
Do you know, if I'm being completely honest here, I don't know who England are playing.
Nor do I.
I genuinely don't, and I don't care. I almost certainly won't watch it. It's just meaningless to me. I mean, I've become one of those annoying people who doesn't really like football when it comes to international football, who get really excited about England during the World Cup or during the Euros and the rest of the time ignore it. That's how I feel. I don't care. They'll probably injure some of our players in some way, the international teams, and I don't like it. I think internationals are, in fact, the Gales of football.
That's really your touchstone, isn't it, for pretty much everything that's awful. So we know where we stand with that. Now, what do you get up to in the international break, Julie? Is this something that, you know, because you're an esteemed journalist, football journalist?
I think international football is really exciting. I'm right behind the England team, even, you know, from clubs I hate. You know, I think Declan Rice, great. Saka, great. And it's a chance to see Harry Kane, isn't it?
But I do hope you draw the line at Jordan Henderson, because honestly,
Jordan
come on.
Henderson, fine figure of
He
a
wasn't
player.
He wasn't good enough when he was. He wasn't good enough when he was 25.
In the Prem at 82. God, what's not to like? Fantastic guy. Wow.
Well, you
Still
don't
got
have
his
to put
hair.
up with Jordan Henderson in Scotland, do you? You're very lucky, Barry. I should think international football, Scotland. I mean, I don't want to cast too many aspersions, but it's a bit shit, isn't it?
well, as I said earlier, I'm a bit like Kevin. I'm just not remotely interested in international football, really. You know, pretty much full stop. Yeah, I want to see Scotland win, but I've got no interest really in who they're playing and what have you. I just look at it as a kind of inconvenience, or like last season, a pleasant break from how shit we were. It was a weekend that wouldn't be spoiled. But no, I've never really been interested in international football, and I can't get up for it. Yeah, my main concern is just always that our players come through unscathed, and that's really, you know, all I'm thinking about. From my point of view, I look upon it as a weekend that you try and do other things and try and be less selfish, like with your partner and family, and arrange stuff, because it's a kind of Spurs free weekend, so you can earn some brownie points, do some stuff like that.
You did want to talk. I know you wanted to talk, actually, but just quickly raise this before we finish. About, you know, Spurs are playing, and you have to go to some function or event. I mean, that's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I try to avoid it and largely do, but sometimes things crop up. Last week, I mentioned the Bodo game. My partner and friends got us to book tickets for a gig way back 6 months ago. And then I saw it was kind of a week of one of the Champions League games, and I thought, holy hell, we're on the Wednesday night. But no. So go along to a gig that a guy was okay, an American guy, Darius Rucker, but not really my thing. So I'm there at the concert with my phone, watching Spurs for the Support acts on, with some American country guy I'd never heard of, and sound turned down. And my partner's just looking at me, taking pictures. What the hell are you doing? You know, you're here for this gig. So it doesn't often arise, but Yeah, it's usually family things that are unavoidable. So if we occasionally do have this and there's a Spurs game on and I'll be at my brother's, I will get nagged, henpecked, incessantly. What are you watching this rubbish? A family occasion, show some respect, it's only a bloody game of football. I hate that phrase. It's only a bloody game.
Come on.
And she'll almost be happy if we lose, as if it's kind of karma for me being interested in it and not giving family stuff the same attention.
Kev, I mean, I presume you arrange your entire life around the fixture list.
Pretty much. I was just thinking at the moment, I'm trying to deal with a dilemma of having booked a day I've wanted to do for a long time. It's called A Day with T.S. Eliot. And I didn't check. I don't know what happened to me. So it clashes with the Forest home match. And I was thinking about this earlier. And so I looked up T.S. Eliot. I put T.S. Eliot and football into Google. And apparently he was an Arsenal fan. So that has actually helped me resolve my dilemma, which is no longer a dilemma. I'm going to go and watch us play Forest. But every now and again, things come up. I mess up, or I forget we're playing a European match on a Tuesday, and I book something, and so. But I find it very difficult not to watch either on telly or if it's a home match go, and I feel guilty. I don't like it at all.
I hear what you say. I mean, not that long ago, one of my wife's nieces, I was having a baby, and it clashed with the kickoff. I can't remember what game it was, and I said, "Can't she wait?" I mean, for goodness sake, you get the priorities, Anyway, I don't get it. I don't get people who don't get how much our lives are predicated on football and outcomes of matches and stuff like that. It's everything, isn't it? It's everything. Look, Julie doesn't want to talk anymore. She just wants to show the dog.
No, the dog is out because he needs a comfort stop. So I've got to make my leave.
You got to go. Julie was regaling us just before we started recording with a charming tale of the dog shitting hourly. So that's nice. I was hoping we might actually get to see that, but sadly not. Look, we're done. So I want to just thank Julie. Dog, keep it in. Put a cork in it, and to Kev of dispensing wisdom, notwithstanding your lunatic disregard for Gales. And Barry, thank you very much. Julie's gone, but Kev, we normally give a mark out of 10, don't we, for our debutantes? What are you giving Barry?
I'm incredibly impressed. I'm tempted to go for 10 out of 10, but I try not to ever give 10 out. So I'm going to.
No, you can't give 10.
9 out of 10. I think he's
giving him a 9.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought. You know what? I think that's fair. I'm like you. You just got to temper it a little bit because they can get carried away. Be strutting around Glasgow, saying I've got a 10 out of 10. Not with a 9, he probably wouldn't. We'll give you a 9 there, Barry, and thank you. It's a pretty good solid start, and we'd love to have you back with more ruminations on all things Spurs. So
you're delighted.
Yeah, great. We'll have you back on. So next week we've got one of our regulars, Dave Bradshaw. He'll be back with us next week. No football of any note worth talking about, but I'm sure we'll find lots of things Spurs related to amuse and entertain. And possibly make us slightly angry. There we are. That's it. Thanks to everyone. We'll be back next week. Come on, you Spurs. Nice One Cyril.